Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel. In today's video, I am sharing Simon Hurley for Ranger's brand new release, and that release includes clear stamps, background stamps, stencils, masks, heart-cut stamping foam, and 2 new colors of Simon Hurley's Lunar Paste. Yes, pink and purple. Let's do a quick flip through of all these amazing new supplies. First, let's take a look at the heart-cut stamping foam. For those of you who are familiar with Simon Hurley's stamping foam, you know you can heat set it and then push a pattern onto it and then stamp that pattern out. With the heart cut, you can actually stamp the heart or the heart background. Next up is the Vases, Masks, and Stencil set. You can see it coordinates perfectly with that extra large stamp set, which is called Sketched Florals. Lots of vases and florals in this stamp set to color or use. This is the Tiny Heart 6x6 stencil, and then the peel apart background stamp is called Paisley. And you can see that you can pop out several of the Paisleys or leave them all inside. Here are the 2 new Lunar Pastes, Rippleberry and Prom Queen. Now, let's make some cards. I'm going to use that Tiny Heart stencil on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of distress watercolor cardstock. I'm going to use a domed foam blender from Tim Holtz for Ranger, and I'm just going to tap some of Prom Queen Lunar Paste right over that stencil onto the paper. So I'm not really rubbing it like I normally would with ink. I'm kind of tapping it to make sure that it fills up the entire open area, which are those teeny tiny little hearts, which I absolutely love. Once that's done, I'm just going to peel that off and you can see the nice ombre effect you can create with just these 2 colors. Next, I'm going to use a floral and a sentiment from the Sketched Florals stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it on black cardstock with some embossing ink. So I'm first using some anti-static powder to make sure that embossing powder doesn't stick where I don't want it, and then stamping with embossing ink and pouring white embossing powder on top. Once that's done, I'm just going to tap a little bit to get those excess pieces off and then heat set. And I love those sketched flowers. I think they're so pretty and just a unique look of flowers. I'm going to fussy cut out the flower and the sentiment. Had a little extra anti-static powder tool there, so I just brush that away with a towel or a dry cloth, and then I'm going to trim that panel down to 4 by 5 1/4 so that I can mat it on some black cardstock as well to pull the black together. I'm going to use black foam squares to pop up both the flower and that sentiment that says I adore you, and just place that down in the center where the 2 colors cross over each other. And this is a really simple but fun card to create and can be used on Valentine's Day or all throughout the year to tell someone you love them. For this card, I'm going to use the Paisley Peel Apart background stamp, and I'm going to first stamp it with just one of the Paisleys removed. And I'm going to make a horizontal A2 card this time. So I'm finding a sentiment that will fit inside that open Paisley, and several of them from the Sketched Floral stamp set will. Take out the foam pad in your MISTI and place that large background stamp right inside and pick it up with the MISTI door. This makes it really easy to make sure you get a perfect impression of your entire background stamp. I am using Simon Hurley inks today. I am going to use No Diving to stamp the entire background except for that one Paisley that we popped out, and I'm stamping it on Nina Solar White cardstock and using my Debbie tool to get that perfect impression from the first time. Now I'm going to clean off that background stamp, and I'm going to stamp ink up the Paisley that I popped out with some yellow Simon Hurley ink and then pop it back into that background stamp. So this will then create the entire image, but one Paisley will be a different color than the other Paisleys. And this is kind of a fun technique you can do with these types of stamps where some of the image pops out. Love that. So now I decided I want to have a little more fun with the other 2 Paisleys. So I'm going to use the yellow again, but this time, since I'm stamping over the No Diving color, it will create a nice different green for us. Again, just a really fun way to use these full background stamps to create an entire background, but to have multicolors on that background really, really easily without having to try to just put ink on one part of the image or anything like that. This makes it really super simple. I did the same thing with the other paisley that is cut out, and I'm just using scissors, but carefully. I don't want to pierce anything, to just put that paisley back in place. So now we have 2 green, 1 yellow, and then the rest are blue. So I'm going to trim this down. Again, I'm making a horizontal A2 card, and I'm going to mat it on some cobalt cardstock from the stamp market here. Now I have that yellow one perfectly placed for my sentiment. So I chose a sentiment from the Sketched Floral stamp set and then put it in my mini MISTI to stamp Hello My Friend over the yellow. This time for this card, I'm going to use the Vases from the Sketched Floral stamp set. So I have all 3 lined up on, again, a horizontal card. I just wanted to include more than 1 or 2, so that's why I'm doing a bunch of horizontals this time. And I'm going to stamp these with Watercolor Safe ink. And once I have those stamped and I have those images done, then I place the masks from the stencil and mask set on top. And then I can stamp the florals on top of the masks. So it will look like the stems are hidden inside the jars. So I have my magnet kind of next to the card because I want to make sure I can stamp all of these florals, hopefully in one pass if I can get it right. But see, those stems are over the masks, so they're not going to stamp, which is perfect because then once we peel the masks off, all you see is the flower in the different vases, and it's just a really simple way to create these guys without having to worry about cutting your own masks. I love that they give them to you as well as the stencil. If I used some pixie spray from Thermoweb to hold the masks in place. If you have a little adhesive left behind, you can just use Thermoweb's adhesive eraser to get rid of that. It's basically just helping you rub that adhesive away. Now I'm working on a glass mat, and I'm going to spritz some water from my Distress sprayer onto that mat. And I'm going to use a paintbrush with the Prom Queen Lunar Paste. Now, if you use a paintbrush with any type of pastes and you care about that paintbrush, make sure you clean it right away. I have a ton of these paintbrushes. I love them, but I have a bunch of them. So I'm okay if a little bit of that paste maybe gets left behind, but I am careful to clean them right after I use them so that I have the best opportunity to possibly continue to use them again and again. So now I am just going to create a watercolor with that lunar paste and then fill in these jars. Now the great thing about the lunar paste is, yes, you can water it down like this to create this watercolor, but it still has that amazing shine. It's tough to see in camera, but I promise at the end when you see it, it will just be a very beautiful color, rich and opaque, but also nice and shiny. I'm going to use some of the previously released lunar pastes, like here I'm using Later Gator for all of the leaves, and I'll use Clear Skies for one of the flowers as well. So I like combining the previously released lunar paste with these new ones. They fit perfectly into the rainbow that they had already created. So this time I'm using a really tiny brush because I'm just trying to get inside those stamped lines as much as I can so that they stay crisp and black, but the inside is that beautiful lunar paste shine. So I decided again that I wanted to use that berry color from the new purple, but I wanted to blue it up a little bit so that it kind of blends in with the other colors that I already used, the green and the blue. So it's hard to tell again, but if you see when I tilt it, there's tons of shine in these. For the background, I'm going to use that domed foam blender, and I'm just going to create an entire background of Prom Queen. Now this is where you can really see that shine. It's absolutely amazing, and I love having things like this where you can then match the color of the vases to the background perfectly by creating your own shiny cardstock. Again, this was super simple. It doesn't even really use that much. You can see my jar is still pretty full from all of this, but it does create a perfectly matched background with tons of shine. Now I'm going to use some tape runner to adhere the panel down to my shiny background. And once that's done, I'm just going to use the Tombow mono eraser because I did get a little bit of the purple where I didn't want it. I did stamp and heat emboss another sentiment from the Sketch Florals stamp set. And now I'm just going to use some white gel pen because the Tombow Mono Eraser sand eraser didn't get everything off. There were just a little bit here and there where I got outside the lines or smudged a little bit, but this Milky Pop gel pen from Pentel really helps to clean up some of those lines there. And I'm going to use those same black foam squares from Thermweb to pop up the sentiment that I cut down into kind of a rectangle. It's not really a strip per se, but it's a nice little rectangle, and then anything that was a little smushed on the one vase ended up getting covered with that sentiment anyway. But check out all the shine between the background, the vases, and the flowers themselves. As I mentioned before, the heart cut stamping foam ends up giving you two pieces, a negative and a positive. I'm going to use the negative in a future video, but for today I'm going to show you how to use the positive piece, which is that heart. So you want to heat up that little heart about 10 seconds. Don't go too overboard because you can kind of, scorch it a little bit, but definitely get it warm enough where you can then use something like an embossing folder like I did here to press an impression into that heart. Then I'm going to use some of the Lunar Paste and I'm just putting it on with one of the domed foam blenders. You can use ink, you can use paints, there's tons of things you can use with these, but I am using that Lunar Paste in Prom Queen. Once again, I think it is my favorite. I just love the color. And once I had that great impression with the heart with the little hearts, I stamped one of the sentiments from the stamp set right on top with black ink, and it just is a clean and simple, fun card. It is really tough for me to pick a favorite here, but I think the Lunar Paste in Prom Queen might be my #1 favorite from this new release, but I'd love to hear what your favorite was. Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't seen my last release video for Simon Hurley, you can check it out over here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can be notified every time I have a new video available. As always, I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Available always sounds weird when it's like coming out. Available. I don't know. It really, we'll do it one more time. Hit the bell. See, now I'm like overthinking it. Video available. It still sounds weird, but that's okay. Yeah, okay.